Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. It's never too late to start something new. Now, you know what? Sometimes I get a message or a comment from a young man saying like, well, I'm 40. Is it too late to get into something, or is it too late to start a business or get in shape or something like that? Now, let me be clear with you. It's never too late. If you look at the careers of, there's many people out there, and they started really making their money well into old age. Indeed, the average man, if he's going to really be successful, really make some money, he's going to be in his 40s. Indeed, the average age of a millionaire I saw someplace was 57. A lot of people, seriously, I think one of the issues is because of entertainment like sports or, popular singers, rappers, whatever, we see them doing their thing when they're real young, stars. So we think we have to be young to get something. No, they're in their own world. That's their own world. The average man who actually works to get something, he got to work a long time. Now, he might be that genius who could start off really doing something like straight out of some college or professional school. Like you got some guys who might come out of medical school. I mean, not medical school. I'll get into medical school in a second, but come out of like law school or something. And because they were just such a bright student, they can get that top-notch job. Those are rare, though. Everybody else got to work for it. And indeed, when I mention medical school, anybody who's familiar with that field and what they have to do, know if they make their money, it's generally not when they're young. First of all, they would have to be like super talented to even get out of medical school or even start medical school. Well, start medical school and then finish medical school before they're 30. And even then, they got to put in a lot of work. And that's with most businesses. That's with most anything. And I'm just talking about the money part. As far as your development or, just your personal development, that's a daily thing anyway. Indeed, a lot of men don't reach their, if we're going to talk about women, let me say that again. Let me use that word again. Most men don't reach their optimal attractiveness to women until their 30s. If they're going to go through a player stage or deal with a lot of women, it's generally when they're in their 30s. Yes, you have some exceptions, but they're just that, exceptions. Even when I talk about selecting non-select men, I've said before, about 85% of men who are select, they started from non-select. They had to work their way into that. And it's usually when they're older. And there's nothing wrong with that. And even starting something new, even if you've been successful at something, who says you can't start something new? Who says when you get to be 50, you can't start something? Like, I remember this guy, he used to be on this TV show, Rock, and I actually met him in the real world at the Million Man March. He was an older gentleman, Carl, I can't think of his last name now, but he didn't start really acting until he was older. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, first of all, we live in a time that if you take care of yourself, you can easily live to your 90s. Despite everything going on there, if you take care of yourself, you don't really harm your body, you exercise regularly, you keep your mind right, you can reasonably live naturally into your 90s and 100s. You have more centenarians than we've ever had in history. So you got plenty of time to start something new. Indeed, I remember seeing something about this Asian guy who had did so many things. I mean, this dude had walked in a runway show at the age of 81, or he was in his 80s. Look, let me tell you something now. It's never too late. It's never too late. Ask yourself something. Do you really want to start living your dream like when you're real old? Or do you, seriously, if you really want to do that, then go ahead and do it. Don't have the mindset, oh, I'm too old or something. No, please. You know what? I remember when I was working on this one job. In fact, it was for the Bureau of the Census. Yeah, that wasn't one of those confidential type of jobs. I can talk about working there. And, I was working there. It was a bunch of young guys working there too, but some older guys. There was one guy in his 70s who outworked all of us. Now, when I was working there, 20s, we had teenagers there, young guys in their 20s. So we had this older gentleman. He was in his 70s. He used to outwork all of us. Let me say that again. He used to outwork all of us, just the vitality we had. We joked with him one time. He said, man, you must be tearing your wife up. And he just looked at us and said, yeah, sometimes I call a friend. I tell her to call a friend up to help her out. Look, it don't matter. Don't get caught up in age. Let me tell you something now. Age is really a number. In fact, when you reach a certain age, you know, because you got some people out here trying to mess with, say, oh, you too old. Man, please, whatever. You reaching it to a certain age in a time when people can still have accidents, still got this pandemic, and, you know, a whole bunch of things. That means they had to have done something. They've done something. And they survived everything else, probably survived it with some vigor. I mean, they were doing it. Who's to say they can't start a new career? In fact, I've known people, they've worked like maybe 30 years on one job, then start something else. I remember a gentleman I met, he had worked maybe over 30 years with the government. And then afterwards, he started a bookstore. I know because I had my books in his store. And he just said, hey, you know what? He did it, and I'm going to do what I want. Look, you can do anything. Don't let it's just a number. And indeed, if you're going to be on some deep, let's go deep for a second. You get a new body every 7 years because cells are always dying and then cells are always being born. So in a 7-year period, you actually have a new body different from 7 years ago. And really, that's an everyday thing. You got a new body. Now, if you take care of yourself, like you eat well, like you need to eat well, drink some water, get some exercise. You know what? You might not want to do the Rom thing of like always lifting weights, though they are good for older men. But you still, you know, if you take walks, do some exercises, bike, just stay active, you can still do stuff until whenever. If you got the energy to do whatever, you can do anything you want. Don't let that artificial number stop you. Personally, I've known 3 men in their 60s. 3 men in their 60s that fathered children. So even that still work. No, really, I've known 3 men in their 60s that fathered children. So that part's even still working well. So it's like, come on, stay in shape, then decide what you want to do. In fact, one of those men I knew, he actually started a different career. You can do whatever you want whenever. Don't let anything artificial stop you. Okay? Whatever you want to do. Whatever your dream is. Or you might, you know what, you might have been living your dream and okay, you had fun doing that. You want to do something. You might just get into something you weren't even thinking about before. You're not too old to do it. All right? You can do whatever. In fact, I would say this. Let me give this because I know somebody had found somewhere. You can't join certain government agencies. Oh, well. I mean, seriously, oh, well. Yeah, but yeah, that's something. Well, that's a government agency. You can still do a whole lot more. So anyway, I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.